Haren's hands moved across the engineering console faster than thought. She had spent 6 days preparing for this moment, running calculations, planning contingencies, imagining every possible scenario. But now that the moment was here, all the planning went out the window. This was pure instinct, pure desperation, and a healthy dose of human insanity. "Shutting down life support," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. "Diverting all power to engines. Bora, seal off sections 3 through 7. We are going to lose atmosphere fast." Bora worked beside her, closing bulkheads and rerouting power lines. The young mechanic's hands were shaking, but she did not hesitate. "Life support offline. We have 6 minutes of breathable air remaining. Environmental controls offline," Haren continued. "Gravity plating offline. Defensive shields offline." With each system she shut down, more power flowed into the engines. The reactor groaned like a living thing in pain, the temperature climbing higher and higher. "Captain, you now have full power to engines. Use it well." On the bridge, Dongsu felt the ship respond to the flood of new energy. The controls became hyper-responsive, every tiny movement translated into violent acceleration. The Xiangho was no longer a cargo hauler. It was a missile with a crew inside. "Here we go," he whispered and pushed the throttle forward. The ship leaped ahead like it had been kicked. The acceleration pressed everyone back in their seats with crushing force. Tae-Wan tried to breathe, but it felt like someone was sitting on his chest. His vision started to tunnel, darkness creeping in from the edges. This was too much. Human bodies were not built to handle this kind of stress, but they did not have to handle it for long. Just 15 minutes, just long enough to cross the finish line. Behind them, the luminous Pride watched the impossible happen. Ambassador Kriegstall stared at his sensors, convinced they must be malfunctioning. The reading said the human ship was accelerating at a rate that should tear it apart. The power output was 3 times what their reactor should produce. It was not possible. It violated every principle of safe engineering. "Match their speed," Kriegstall ordered his pilot. "I cannot, Ambassador. The safety systems will not allow it. The computer says the stress would damage the hull. Override the safety systems. Ambassador, if I do that, we could—" "I do not care." Kriegstall slammed a manipulator against the console. "A human ship, a primitive wreck held together with scrap metal, is beating us. This cannot stand. Match their speed, or I will find a pilot who can." The Velthari pilot hesitated, then reached for the override controls. But even as his hands moved, he knew it would not be enough. The humans had disabled their safety systems days ago. They had spent a week preparing to push past every limit. The luminous Pride was trying to do in seconds what the humans had planned for days. It would not work. The Xiangho pulled further ahead. In the engine room, Haren watched the reactor temperature climb past every warning threshold. The containment field was fluctuating wildly. Coolant lines were bursting. Backup systems were failing. The reactor was eating itself alive, and there was nothing she could do about it now except hope it held together for a few more minutes. 5 minutes of air left, Bora said, checking her oxygen meter. "We are already breathing carbon dioxide." "I am getting dizzy." "Stay focused," Haren said, though she felt dizzy too. The gravity plating was offline, and they were floating in the engine room, held down only by safety straps. "We just need to make it to the finish line. After that, we can worry about breathing." A panel exploded behind them, showering the room with sparks. Haren twisted in her straps to see the damage. A coolant line had ruptured completely, spraying blue liquid across the reactor housing. The temperature jumped another 10 degrees. "We are going to lose containment," Bora shouted. Haren made a decision. She unstrapped herself and pushed off toward the reactor, flying through the zero gravity to the emergency controls. There was a manual bypass, a way to vent excess heat directly into space. It would destroy half the reactor systems, but it might buy them a few more minutes. She grabbed the lever and pulled. Superheated plasma vented from the ship's underbelly in a brilliant stream of white-hot gas. The Xiangho looked like a comet, trailing fire behind it as it tore through space. The temperature dropped, but now they were hemorrhaging power. The engines stuttered. "No, no, no," Haren muttered, adjusting controls as fast as she could. "Stay together. Just a little longer, please." On the bridge, Tae-Wan watched the distance counter. 50 light seconds to the finish line, 45-40. They were going to make it. They were actually going to make it. Then he heard Ha-Ren scream over the comm. "Captain, we are losing reactor containment." "I cannot stop it." "We have maybe 3 minutes before core breach." 3 minutes. The finish line was still 35 light seconds away. At their current speed, they would not make it. They would explode before crossing the line. Everything they had done, all the risks they had taken, would be for nothing. Dong-Su stared at his controls, his mind racing. There had to be a way. There had to be something they could do. Then he remembered the chemical rockets. Harin had installed them as a backup boost, primitive explosive fuel that would give them one final burst of speed. But she had warned him they were incredibly dangerous, unstable. Designed for a few seconds of use, not sustained burn. The afterburners, he said. Harin, what if we use the chemical rockets? There was a long pause. Dong-Su, those are not designed for racing. They are emergency thrusters. If we ignite them at this speed, the stress could rip the ship apart. But would it be faster? Another pause. Yes, much faster. Then we use them, Taewon said. What do we have to lose at this point? Harin laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. I can think of several things, starting with our lives. But you know what? We are already dead if we do nothing. Bora, secure yourself. This is going to be rough. She pulled herself back to the engineering console and began the ignition sequence for the chemical rockets. Ancient technology, obsolete for thousands of years by galactic standards, but humans had never really stopped using it. Because sometimes, when you needed raw power and you needed it right now, there was nothing better than controlled explosions. Afterburners ready, Harin reported. Captain, on your order. Taewon took a deep breath of the thinning air. His lungs burned. His chest ached. His vision was getting spotty from lack of oxygen. But he could still see the finish line on his screen, so close, so impossibly close. Do it, he said. Harin pressed the button. The chemical rockets ignited all along the Xiongho's hull. The ship did not accelerate. It exploded forward. The force was so violent that every person aboard blacked out for a moment. Panels tore free from the walls. Equipment ripped from its mountings. The hull itself began to buckle from the stress, but the Xiongho moved. It moved faster than any ship had ever moved through the Kepler Nebula. Faster than the Valkyrie vessels. Faster than any computer had calculated was possible. It moved so fast that the friction with the thin plasma at the nebula's edge created a visible shockwave, a sonic boom in space itself. The ship was breaking the sound barrier in a region where sound should not exist. Jiwon's voice over the broadcast had become a continuous scream of excitement. They are doing it. The rust bucket is pulling away. The Xiongho is going to win. This is impossible. This is insane. This is the most incredible thing I have ever seen. The distance counter spun down. 20 light seconds. 15. 10. The reactor alarm reached a new pitch, a continuous shriek that meant imminent core breach. Harin could see the containment field collapsing on her displays. 30 seconds until explosion. Maybe less. 5 light seconds. The chemical rockets were burning out, the fuel nearly exhausted. The ship was shaking so hard that Taewon could not read his displays anymore. Everything was a blur. 3 light seconds. The containment field failed. The reactor started to go critical. Harin hit the emergency shutdown, but it was too late. The explosion was coming, 1 light second. The Xiongho crossed the finish line. 3 full seconds later, the luminous Pride crossed in second place, and 5 seconds after that, the Xiongho's engines exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The ship tumbled through space, all power dead, trailing debris and smoke. Emergency alarms screamed through the dark corridors. The air was almost gone. The temperature was dropping rapidly without environmental controls. The crew was unconscious from G-forces and oxygen deprivation. The Xiongho coasted toward the station on momentum alone, a dead hulk that had given everything it had to win. Taewon came to consciousness slowly, his head pounding. He tried to move, but his body would not respond. Everything hurt. He could not breathe properly. The air was too thin. His lungs burned with every gasp. But through the viewport he could see the station ahead. They were drifting toward it. Still moving. Still alive, did we? He tried to say, but could not get enough air for the words. Harin's voice came over the comm, weak but triumphant. We won, Captain. We actually won. Dong-Su started laughing, a gasping, oxygen-deprived laugh that turned into coughing. We broke the sound barrier in space. That is not even supposed to be possible. Nothing we did was supposed to be possible, Harin said. That is why it worked. The starting line at the edge of the Kepler Nebula looked like a gathering of jewels floating in the darkness of space. 12 ships hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. 3 Velthari vessels with their flowing organic designs. 4 ships from various advanced species, each one a masterpiece of engineering. 5 human ships, and among them, looking like a piece of scrap metal someone forgot to throw away, was the Seong-ho. Inside the bridge, Dong-Su flexed his fingers on the controls. His mouth was dry. His heart raced. 7 days ago, he had been a simple cargo pilot. Now he was about to race against the best ships in the galaxy, through one of the most dangerous regions of space known to any species. Nervous, Taewon asked from the captain's chair. Terrified, Dong-Su admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Taewon brought up the race course on the main display. 200 light seconds through the nebula, around a neutron star, and back to the finish line. On a good day with a good ship, it would take 6 hours. The Velthari were predicting they could do it in 4. Harin's voice came from the engine room. All systems green. Well, not actually green, more like yellow and orange. But nothing is actively exploding, so I am calling it a win. A countdown appeared on every ship's display. 60 seconds. The race would be broadcast across the entire galaxy. Jiwon, a human sports announcer, was providing commentary for Earth, his excited voice filling the comm channels. Ladies and gentlemen across the Sol system and beyond, what we are witnessing today is historic. A human ship, the Seong-ho, is about to race against the most advanced vessels in galactic society. The odds are 10,000 to 1 against them. No human ship has ever competed at this level. But Captain Taewon and his crew are about to try. 30 seconds. Ambassador Crickstall's voice cut through on a private channel. Last chance to withdraw, human. No shame in admitting you are outmatched. See you at the finish line, Taewon replied and closed the channel. 10 seconds. Dong-Su's hands tightened on the controls. He thought about everything Harin had taught him. Forget the computer. Trust your gut. Fly by instinct. Do not try to be perfect. Try to be fast. 3, 2, 1. The starting beacon flashed green. 12 ships exploded forward into the nebula. The advanced alien ships immediately pulled ahead, their powerful engines leaving the human vessels behind like they were standing still. The luminous Pride was in the lead, Ambassador Crickstall's ship moving with fluid grace through the swirling clouds of charged particles. The Seong-ho was dead last, its ancient engines struggling to keep pace. We are losing already, Dong-Su said, watching the distance grow on his sensors. Not losing, Harin said. We are being patient. Let them think they have won. The race is long. The nebula swallowed them all. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The clouds glowed with strange colors, purple and green and blue as energy storms danced through the charged gas. Sensors went crazy, showing phantom objects that were not there and missing real dangers that were. The alien ships slowed down, their advanced computers calculating safe paths through the chaos. Their AIs analyzed every bit of data, plotting courses that avoided the worst hazards. They flew in smooth, controlled arcs, letting their technology guide them. Dong-Su flew straight ahead. What are you doing? Taewon shouted as an asteroid appeared out of the clouds directly in their path. Trusting my gut, Dong-Su said and yanked the controls hard left. The Seong-ho spun sideways, scraping past the rock with centimeters to spare. More asteroids appeared. Dong-Su weaved through them like he was dancing, his hands moving on pure instinct. The alien ships were taking a detour around the asteroid field, their computers refusing to risk the direct path. Dong-Su flew straight through the middle. You are insane. Taewon gripped his chair as debris bounced off the hull. Sparks flew from damaged panels. An alarm started screaming about hull breaches. But they were gaining ground. The gap was closing. We just passed the 4th-place ship, Harin reported from the engine room, her voice strangely calm despite the chaos. An energy storm erupted in front of them, lightning bolts the size of buildings arcing through space. The other ships veered away, their shields raised, waiting for the storm to pass. Dong-Su aimed right for it. We do not have shields, Taewon reminded him. I know, Dong-Su said and threaded the needle between 2 lightning strikes. The electricity turned space around them into a web of deadly energy. One bolt grazed the hull, frying several external sensors. But they were through, and they had passed 2 more ships. Jiwon's voice was getting louder and more excited over the broadcast. Folks, I cannot believe what I am seeing. The Seongho, the rust bucket, the ship everyone laughed at, is in third place. They are flying through obstacles that are making veteran pilots turn away. This is either the bravest or the stupidest display of piloting I have ever witnessed. Harin's laugh echoed through the comm. Why not both? They reached a dense debris field that the sensors said was impossible to cross. Broken ships from centuries past. Floating metal and ice and rock all tumbling in a deadly maze. The other ships were plotting a course around it. A detour that would add precious minutes to their time. Straight through? Dongsu asked. Straight through, Taewon confirmed. The Seongho plunged into the graveyard of ships. Dongsu's hands moved constantly on the controls, making hundreds of tiny adjustments every second. Up, down, left, right, roll, spin, every movement necessary to avoid collision. The hull groaned. Metal scraped against metal. A piece of ancient hull plate smashed into their port side, leaving a gash that vented atmosphere, but they emerged on the other side in second place. Only the luminous Pride was ahead of them now. Time to stop playing around, Harin said. Captain, permission to engage overboost? Taewon looked at the sensor readout. They were neck and neck with one of the most advanced ships in the galaxy, flying a vessel that should have broken apart 100 times already. They had come so far, but the neutron star waypoint was ahead, and after that, the final stretch. If they wanted to win, they needed more speed. Do it, he said. Harin activated the overboost. The Seongho did not accelerate. It was thrown forward like a rock from a slingshot. The sudden force slammed everyone back in their seats. Dongsu's vision went gray at the edges from the G-forces. Even with the inertial dampeners at maximum, the acceleration was crushing. They shot past the luminous Pride like it was standing still. Ambassador Krixtall's voice crackled over the comm. What? How? This is impossible. The Velthari ship tried to match their speed, but its safety systems would not allow it. The computer refused to push the engines that hard, refused to put the crew at risk. The luminous Pride was built for speed, but it was also built for survival. The Seongho was built for neither. It was built for this one moment, this one race, where winning mattered more than living. They reached the neutron star waypoint in first place. The star was small but incredibly dense, its gravity well deep and dangerous. Ships had to approach carefully, use the gravity to slingshot around, and then escape before the radiation became lethal. It was a delicate maneuver that required perfect timing. Dongsu did not approach carefully. He aimed straight for the danger zone, flying closer to the star than any sane pilot would dare. The radiation alarm screamed. The hull temperature climbed rapidly, but the gravity grabbed them and whipped them around the star like a stone from a sling, adding even more speed to their already insane velocity. The luminous Pride took the safe path, the calculated path, the smart path. They came around the star 10 seconds behind the humans, 100 light seconds to the finish line. They were in the lead. They were going to win. Then Harin's voice came over the comm, and for the first time she sounded worried. Captain, we have a problem. The reactor is overheating. We are way past redline. I do not know how much longer it will hold. Taewon pulled up the engineering display. The numbers made his blood run cold. The reactor was at 200% capacity and climbing. The containment field was failing. They had maybe 10 minutes before the entire reactor core melted down. The finish line was 15 minutes away at their current speed. Behind them, the luminous Pride was closing the gap. Ambassador Krixtall had pushed his ship to its limits. And while those limits were still within safety margins, they were faster than the failing Seongho. Dongsu looked at the distance counter, then at the reactor temperature, then back at the distance. The math was simple and terrible. They could not make it. They would either slow down and lose or keep going and explode before they reached the finish line. Captain, Dongsu said quietly. What do we do? Taewon looked at his crew. Dongsu, the young pilot who had trusted him enough to fly through hell. Harin, the engineer who had bet everything on a crazy plan. Bora in the engine room, fighting to keep the reactor together for just a few more minutes. His crew, his family, all of them risking their lives because he had been too proud to back down from a challenge. Harin, he said, what do you need to give us maximum speed for the next 15 minutes? There was silence on the comm. Then Harin laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Everything. I need to divert all power from life support and shields. We will have about 6 minutes of air left. The cargo bay of the Seongho looked like a bomb had gone off inside it. Tools scattered across the floor, panels ripped from the walls, wiring hanging like jungle vines from the ceiling. Harin stood in the middle of the chaos with her assistant Bora, both of them covered in grease and coolant. They had been working for 3 days straight, and they were just getting started. "Hand me the plasma cutter," Harin said, pointing at a section of wall plating. Bora passed her the tool, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. The young mechanic had been working under Harin for 2 years, and she had never seen her mentor like this. Harin was always careful, always checking and double-checking every repair. Now she was tearing the ship apart like she was angry at it. "Are we really going to do this?" Bora asked. "We are going to try," Harin said, cutting through metal like it was paper. "And if we are lucky, we will not explode before the race even starts." Captain Tae-wan climbed down the ladder into the cargo bay, moving carefully around the debris. He had given Harin complete control like she asked, but seeing his ship torn apart made his chest hurt. "Please tell me you have a plan." Harin shut off the cutter and wiped her forehead. "I do, but you are not going to like it." She led him to a makeshift table where she had spread out diagrams and calculations. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a schematic of a Velthari ship. "This is the Luminous Pride. Beautiful design, quantum-enhanced engines, perfect power distribution, advanced AI navigation. It is everything our ship is not. That is not making me feel better." "It should," Harin said, "because they built it wrong." Tae-wan frowned. "What do you mean wrong?" "The Velthari have been building ships for thousands of years." "Exactly. They have been building them the same way for thousands of years. Everything optimized, everything balanced, everything safe." Harin pulled up another diagram, this one showing the Seong-ho. "But we do not have to build safe. We just have to build fast." She explained her plan, and with every word, Tae-wan felt his stomach drop further. "Strip out all non-essential systems. Bypass every safety regulator on the engines. Install chemical rockets, actual explosive fuel rockets like humanity used before they even left Earth. Divert power from life support and shields directly into the thrusters. Push the reactor to 3 times its rated capacity." "This is insane," Tae-wan said when she finished. "Yes? The ship will explode. Maybe, probably 40% chance. And if it does not explode, we could still die from lack of oxygen or get hit by debris because we have no shields." "Also possible," Harin admitted. "But here is the thing, Captain. Alien ships are built like precision watches. Everything has to work perfectly together. If one thing goes wrong, the whole system shuts down to protect itself. But human engineering is different. We build things that can take a beating and keep working. We do not optimize for perfection. We optimize for survival." She pulled up a historical file showing old Earth vehicles, race cars, fighter jets, rocket ships. "Look at our history. We have always asked the same question. How fast can we go before it kills us? And then we try to go just a little bit faster. That is not how aliens think. They ask, how fast can we go safely? And then they stop there." Tae-wan looked at the diagrams, the calculations, the pile of parts that Harin had somehow acquired. "Where did you get all this?" "Better if you do not ask." The next day, a strange alien arrived at the ship. Calvex was a Thulian, a species that looked like a cross between a squid and a businessman. He carried several containers that hummed with barely contained energy. "Captain Tae-wan," Calvex said, his translator making his burbling sounds into words. "I hear you need some special parts. Are they legal?" Tae-wan asked. Calvex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Define legal. They will not get you arrested, but they might get you killed. Humans always want to go faster than physics allows." The parts cost everything they had left. Plus, Tae-wan had to mortgage the ship itself. If they lost the race, he would lose the Seong-ho entirely. But if they did not take the risk, they would lose anyway. Bora and Harin worked around the clock installing everything. Dong-soo helped when he could, though mostly he just tried to stay out of the way. The young pilot spent his time studying the nebula maps and learning the racing techniques Harin wanted him to master. "Forget everything you learned at the academy," Harin told him on the 4th day. "This is not about smooth flying or optimal paths. This is about controlled chaos. You are going to push this ship harder than it has ever been pushed. You are going to fly through places where the computer says you cannot fit. You are going to trust your instincts over the sensors." "What if my instincts are wrong?" Dong-soo asked. "Then we die," Harin said simply. "But better to die trying than to give up without a fight." Word spread through the station about the modifications. Other crews started visiting the docking bay just to watch the humans work. Some came to laugh. Others came to place bets on how quickly the Seong-ho would explode. A group of Velthari engineers showed up on the 5th day. Their leader, a technician whose translator gave his name as an unpronounceable clicking sound, examined the modifications with obvious horror. "This is madness," the engineer said. "Your power systems are completely unshielded. One surge will fry every circuit in the ship. Your reactor containment has been modified beyond all safety standards. You are one failure away from a core breach, and these chemical rockets, they are barbaric, primitive, dangerous." Harin looked up from her work. "You are right about all of that. Then why are you doing this?" "Because your ship is faster than ours," Harin said. "Your technology is better. Your engines are more powerful. We cannot beat you with precision, so we are going to beat you with stupidity." The Velthari engineer stood silent for a long moment. "You will die." "Probably," Harin agreed. "But we are going to die going fast." On the 6th day, they were ready to test the modifications. Station security cleared the docking bay, ordering all other ships to move to a safe distance. The Seong-ho was still locked in its docking clamps, but Harin wanted to test the overboost system before the race. Taiwan sat in the captain's chair, his hands gripping the armrests. Dongsu was at the pilot controls, looking nervous. Harin was in the engine room, her voice coming over the comm. "Starting power-up sequence," she said. "Reactor at 50%, 70%, 100%. The ship began to vibrate. A low hum filled the bridge, growing louder and higher in pitch. "Bypassing safety systems," Harin continued. "Reactor at 150%. Diverting shield power to engines." The vibration became a shaking. Panels rattled. Warning lights began flashing across every console. "Engaging overboost in 3, 2, 1. Harin hit the button. The Seong-ho lunged forward with so much force that the docking clamps snapped like twigs. The ship shot across the bay, alarms screaming, headed straight for another docked vessel. Dongsu grabbed the controls and yanked hard, barely managing to veer away. The Seong-ho spun wildly, thrusters firing in all directions, before finally coming to a stop floating in the middle of the bay. Station security was screaming over the comm, threatening to disqualify them for reckless endangerment. Taewon could not answer because he was too busy trying to breathe. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might explode. Harin's voice came over the comm and she was laughing. "Did you see that? Did you see how fast we moved, Captain? We just accelerated faster than any ship in this station. The Velthari do not have anything that can match that." "We almost died," Taewon shouted. "But we did not," Harin said. "And now we know it works. The rust bucket is not a joke anymore, Captain. It is a weapon." That night, Taewon could not sleep. He walked through the ship looking at all the modifications. Everything Harin had done made sense on paper, but it went against every instinct he had. Ships were supposed to be safe, reliable, predictable. This was none of those things. He found Harin in the engine room, still working on final adjustments. She looked exhausted but happy. "Are we really going to do this?" he asked. "You already signed us up, Captain. Too late to back out now, but can we win?" Harin was quiet for a moment, her hands still on the reactor controls. "Honestly, I do not know. The Velthari ship is better in every way. Faster top speed, better handling, more advanced sensors. But they will fly safe. They will let their computers make decisions. They will take the smart path, the calculated path. And us? We are going to fly like maniacs," Harin said with a grin. "We are going to take every risk, push every limit, and hope that human stubbornness is enough to beat alien perfection." "Is it a good plan?" "No, is it our only plan?" "Yes." Taewon looked at his engineer, this woman who had just spent 6 days turning his ship into a flying bomb, and he started to laugh. It was either laugh or cry, and he was too tired to cry. "We are going to die," he said. "Maybe," Harin agreed. "But if we do, everyone in the galaxy will remember that the humans in the rust bucket died trying to win." The docking clamps groaned as the Seong-ho limped into Bay 17 of Trade Station Epsilon 7. Black smoke trailed from the port engine, and the hull plating looked like someone had used it for target practice. Inside the cramped bridge, Captain Taewon wiped sweat from his forehead and let out a long breath. They had made it. Barely. "Another successful landing," Dongsu said from the pilot seat, though his hands were shaking on the controls. The young pilot tried to sound confident, but everyone knew how close they had come to dying in the void. Successful means we can fly again. Harin's voice crackled over the comm from the engine room. This piece of junk needs 3 weeks of repairs and parts we cannot afford. Taewon stood up slowly, his joints aching. He was getting too old for this. 47 years of hauling cargo across the galaxy, and what did he have to show for it? A ship held together with duct tape and prayers. Debts piling up faster than he could pay them, and a reputation as the captain of the worst vessel in the human merchant fleet. Outside the viewport, he could see other ships docked at the station. Sleek alien vessels that gleamed like jewels, their hulls perfect and unmarked. Human ships that were at least properly maintained, with crews who could afford real repairs. And then there was the Seong-ho, nicknamed the Rust Bucket by every other captain on the station. The name had stuck, and Taewon hated it. The 3 crew members met at the airlock. Harin looked exhausted, her coveralls stained with grease and coolant. She was the best engineer Taewon had ever known, capable of fixing things that should have been impossible to fix. But even her skills had limits, and the Seong-ho was testing those limits every single day. How bad? Taewon asked. The reactor is running at 60% capacity. The FTL drive needs new crystals. The life support system has a leak I cannot find. The hull has 17 new holes, and the landing gear is held on by hope and my personal collection of spare bolts. Harin counted off the problems on her fingers. We need at least 50,000 credits for basic repairs. Taewon felt his stomach sink. They had made 8,000 credits on the last cargo run. After fuel, docking fees, and food, they would have maybe 3,000 left. 50,000 might as well be 50 million. We will figure something out, he said, trying to sound like a captain who had a plan. We always do. They walked through the station corridors toward the central hub. Epsilon 7 was massive, a city in space where thousands of species lived and worked. The halls were crowded with aliens of every shape and size. Towering beings with 4 arms walked past tiny creatures that floated in gravity bubbles. The air smelled like a mixture of exotic spices, ozone, and engine fuel. As they walked, other crews pointed and whispered. Taewon heard the words Rust Bucket more than once, followed by laughter. A group of Velthari merchants, insectoid creatures with gleaming exoskeletons, made clicking sounds that their translators turned into mocking comments about human engineering. Ignore them, Harin muttered, but Taewon could see the anger in her eyes. The mandatory station meeting was held in the main conference center. Every captain currently docked was required to attend. Taewon found a seat in the back, hoping to stay invisible. Station Commander Yul Mora, a large reptilian with silver scales, stood at the front and began discussing trade regulations and docking schedules. Taewon tried to pay attention, but his mind kept drifting to his money problems. Then Ambassador Crixtal stood up. The Velthari ambassador was an impressive creature, standing nearly 3 meters tall with a purple and gold exoskeleton that seemed to glow under the lights. When Crixtal spoke, everyone listened. The Velthari were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy, and they knew it. I wish to make an announcement, Crixtal said, the translator making the clicking sounds into smooth words. The Terminus colonies have opened bidding for exclusive trade rights. 5 years of cargo contracts worth approximately 10 million credits per year. The room buzzed with excitement. 50 million credits over 5 years would make any captain rich. However, Crixtal continued, they will only contract with the fastest and most reliable fleet. Therefore, I propose a race through the Kepler Nebula. The winner takes the contract. The Kepler Nebula was famous for being one of the most dangerous regions of space anywhere near civilized territory. Energy storms appeared without warning. Debris fields could shred a ship's hull. Navigation was nearly impossible because sensors went crazy inside the charged clouds. Only the best ships with the best crews attempted to cross it, and even they took weeks to do it safely. My ship, the Luminous Pride, will of course be competing, Crixtal said. I invite any captain who believes their vessel can match Velthari engineering to join me. Silence fell over the room. Everyone knew this was not really an invitation. It was a challenge, and more than that, it was an insult. Crixtal was saying that no other species could compete with the Velthari. One by one, the alien captains made excuses. Their ships were not fast enough. They had other contracts. The risk was too great. Even the other human captains stayed silent. Everyone in the galaxy knew that human ships were the slowest and least advanced. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and their technology was still catching up. Crixtal's mandibles spread in what the translator called a smile. As I suspected, The other species talk about equality, but when challenged, they reveal their true, I accept. The words were out of Taewan's mouth before his brain could stop them. Every head in the room turned to look at him. Harin grabbed his arm hard enough to bruise. "Captain, what are you doing?" she whispered urgently. Crystal's multifaceted eyes focused on Taewan. "And you are?" "Captain Taewan of the Seongho." He stood up, his heart pounding. "I accept your challenge." The room erupted in noise. Laughter, mostly. Some aliens were making sounds that the translators could not even process. Crystal made a clicking sound that needed no translation at all. "The rust bucket," someone shouted, and the laughter grew louder. "You cannot be serious," Crystal said. "I have seen your vessel. It is held together with primitive materials and outdated technology. It would not survive 10 minutes in the nebula." "Then you have nothing to worry about," Taewan said. He was angry now, too angry to think clearly. 15 years of being treated like a second-class citizen in the galaxy. 15 years of being laughed at. 15 years of watching aliens look down at humanity like they were children playing with toys. "We race, or you admit you are afraid of losing to a human." The room went quiet. Challenging a Velthari ambassador's courage was a serious insult in their culture. Crystal's exoskeleton seemed to darken with anger. "Very well," the ambassador said coldly. "We race in 7 days. I will enjoy watching your ship break apart in the void, human." Taewan sat down as the meeting dissolved into chaos. Dongsu was staring at him like he had lost his mind. Harin's face had gone pale. "Captain," she said quietly, "do you have any idea what you just did?" "I know exactly what I did," Taewan said, though his hands were shaking. "I got us into a race we cannot win, with a ship that barely flies against the most advanced species in the galaxy. We are going to die," Dongsu whispered. Harin was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and there was a strange smile on her face. "Maybe not." "Captain, I need you to trust me." "Can you do that?" Taewan looked at his engineer, the woman who had kept the Seongho flying when it should have died 100 times over. "Always." "Good, then I need complete access to the ship, no questions asked. I need whatever money we have left. And I need 7 days." She leaned closer. "If we are going to lose, we might as well lose spectacularly. But if you let me work, I think I can give us a chance." "What kind of chance?" Harin's smile grew wider. "The kind that makes everyone remember that humans do not know when to quit." 1 year after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy looked very different. Humanity had not wasted the time bought with blood and sacrifice. The shipyards of Earth, Mars, Luna, and the Belt worked without stopping. 200 warships now carried the human flag, each one an improvement on the last. The humans had learned from captured Empire technology, combining it with their own brutal weapons in ways that made Empire strategists wake up screaming. But the ships were not humanity's greatest achievement. That honor belonged to something else entirely. Ambassador Dassam stood in the council chamber of the Korthar Collective, speaking to beings who had been slaves for 3,000 years. She was 32 years old, brilliant at reading people, and possessed a voice that could inspire or terrify depending on her mood. Today she chose inspiration. "The Empire tells you that resistance is futile," she said. "They tell you that their fleets are infinite, their power absolute. They told us the same thing, but we fought them, and we won." The Korthar representatives looked at each other with their 3 eyes. They were insectoid beings, covered in chitinous armor that had evolved to withstand harsh radiation. Once they had been explorers and scientists. Then the Empire came and turned them into factory workers, building ships for their conquerors. "You are one species." The lead Korthar clicked. "We have seen the casualty reports. Your victory cost you billions of lives. How many battles like that can you survive?" "As many as we need to," Dassam replied. "But here is what the Empire does not want you to know. They won, they drove us back. They could have destroyed Earth, but they retreated. Do you know why?" The Korthar did not answer. "Because they were afraid. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire faced an enemy that refused to accept defeat. And it terrified them." Dassam leaned forward. "They retreated because they realized that destroying us would cost them too much. So they decided to contain us instead. But we are not content to be contained. We are going to free every species they have enslaved. And we are starting with you." Counselor Vexthar watched the meeting through remote sensors. He was an old being, one of the few Empire leaders who remembered when the Empire had been a force for good instead of oppression. He had been secretly feeding information to the humans for months, waiting for this moment. The Korthar made their decision. 3 days later, their entire species rose in rebellion. Human warships arrived to support them, along with weapons, supplies, and tactical training. Commander Doyen himself led the training program, teaching the Korthar everything humans had learned about fighting dirty. Within a month, the Korthar system was free. Within 3 months, 17 other species had followed their example. The Empire was fracturing, and humanity was the crack that had started it all. On Earth, President No Jiwoo faced a difficult choice. The military wanted to press the advantage to attack while the Empire was weak. But No had seen the casualty reports from the Battle of Earth. 3 billion dead. Mars scarred forever. The Belt colonies still rebuilding. We cannot sustain another war like the last one, she told her advisors. Our population will not accept it. Then we fight differently, suggested Admiral Kang. He had aged 10 years in the past 12 months, his hair now completely white. We do not attack the Empire directly. We help others free themselves. We supply weapons, training, tactical support. Let the Empire fight 1,000 small wars instead of one big one. Fleet Admiral Jiwon, promoted after her heroic defense of Earth, agreed. She commanded the expeditionary fleet now. 200 ships ready to carry the fight beyond human space. We become the arsenal of liberation. Every species that wants freedom gets human weapons and human training. The Empire wanted to contain us. Instead, we will spread like wildfire. The strategy was approved. Human ships began appearing at the edges of Empire space, always where slave species were most oppressed. They brought railguns and missiles. They brought nuclear weapons that civilized species considered barbaric. They brought the knowledge of how to fight an enemy that seemed unbeatable. Captain Seongri commanded the UHNS Prometheus, humanity's first true dreadnought. It was twice the size of the Defiant, armed with weapons that combined human and alien technology. His mission was to escort convoys of weapons to rebel species deep in Empire territory. 3 Empire patrol fleets detected, his sensor officer reported, as they approached the Velo system. They are moving to intercept. How many ships? 90 total, Shungri smiled. A year ago, 90 Empire ships would have been a death sentence. Now it was just another day. Battle stations. Launch fighters, and send a message to those patrol fleets. Tell them to go home or we will send them home in pieces. The Empire fleets attacked. It was a mistake. The Prometheus and its escorts tore through them like paper. Human fighters, piloted by veterans of the Earth battle, danced through the Empire formations. Kinetic weapons shredded ships designed to resist energy beams. In 30 minutes, the battle was over. 70 Empire ships destroyed. 20 retreated. 0 human casualties. The weapons convoy reached Velos. Another species tasted freedom. But not everyone in the Empire wanted to fight. Councillor Vexthar had been gathering support among the moderate factions, those who remembered when the Empire had been built on mutual cooperation instead of conquest. He arranged a secret meeting with Fleet Admiral Jiwon on a neutral space station. Jiwon brought Captain Jamin and Dr. Taijun as escorts. They did not trust the Empire, but they were willing to listen. Vexthar was an ancient being, his body sustained by technology that had kept him alive for over a millennium. He looked at the humans with something like respect. "You have done something I thought impossible," he said through Taijun's translator. "You have made the Empire question itself. There are factions now, groups that believe the old ways of conquest were wrong, but there is also a faction that wants to destroy you at any cost. They are building a fleet of 10,000 ships. Let them come," Jiwon said. "We will be ready. You do not understand. 10,000 ships is more than has ever been assembled in Empire history. It would take centuries to replace if destroyed. If they send this fleet and you somehow defeat it, the Empire will collapse completely. Billions will die in the chaos. Then perhaps the Empire should not send the fleet." "I agree. That is why I am here." Vexthar leaned forward. "There is another option. A threat from beyond our galaxy. Something that has been growing in dark space for 1,000 years. We have known about it but kept it secret, afraid that revealing an external threat would destabilize the Empire. But now the Empire is already unstable. We need your help." Jiwon exchanged glances with her companions. "What kind of threat?" Vexthar activated a hologram. It showed something vast and terrible, Ships that looked organic, that seemed to consume the very light around them. They call themselves the Devourers. They destroy all life in every system they enter. They are coming. And we cannot stop them with conventional weapons. But we can, G1 said, understanding. Because we do not use conventional weapons. Exactly. The Empire's weapons are elegant, precise, designed to disable ships and preserve life. Your weapons are designed to destroy absolutely. Against the Devourers, that is what we need. Tajin spoke up. Why should we help you? After everything the Empire has done to us and to other species? Because if the Devourers are not stopped, they will consume the entire galaxy, including Earth. The meeting lasted 4 hours. At the end, G1 made a decision that she knew would change everything. I will take your proposal to Earth, but I have conditions. The Empire must recognize all the rebel species as independent. No more slavery, no more conquest, and humanity will not join the Empire. We will remain independent. The Council will never accept that. Then billions will die when the Devourers arrive. Your choice, Counselor. 1 month later, Fleet Admiral G1 stood before the Galactic Council for the first time. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 10,000 species. Most looked at her with fear, some with curiosity, a few with hope. People of the galaxy, she began. A year ago, the Empire tried to destroy my species. They failed. Since then, we have helped 17 species win their freedom. We have shown you that the Empire is not invincible, that resistance is not futile. Murmurs filled the chamber, some angry, some excited. But we did not come here to continue the war. We came to offer an alliance. Not membership in the Empire, not submission to their rules, but a partnership of equals. Jiwan activated a hologram showing the Devourer threat. This enemy does not care about your politics or your peace. It only wants to consume. To stop it, you need weapons that can kill absolutely. You need warriors who know how to fight without mercy. You need humans. High Counselor Thexnor, who had led the attack on Earth, stood. You want us to legitimize your barbaric weapons, to abandon 10,000 years of civilization? No, G1 replied. I want you to survive. Your civilization, your peace, your elegant weapons, they are all beautiful, worth preserving. But they cannot save you from what is coming. Only we can do that. And in return, you will give freedom to every enslaved species. You will recognize our independence. You will accept that different species can be equals without one ruling the others.